Latro and anybody else that's popped in. I haven't really up anybody else. And VM, or chicken tots. And the air fryer cook. You cook for 20 minutes. Sounds good, actually. Yeah, we had shake and bake. I like the extra crispy, so I add to it and fix it up a little bit more. So yeah, it turned out pretty good. Yeah, I look rough. I was sick Wednesday night. Man, I'm sicker than a dog. I didn't start feeling like a human until really Friday. Still having voice troubles though. But I hope everybody's good and having a good night and had a good week so far. We will be back Friday, 7:15, right here on Gemma's channel. So we will be back Friday. We'll have topics. I think what we're going to do at first is she'll pick a topic like they used to do on SR. She'll pick a topic, and we'll talk about that, and then we'll do my topic if we have time. And then later we're going to start doing some other things. Just us to start. Beautiful day and evening. Yeah, it's chilly here. I'm betting that I haven't looked, but I think we're supposed to get rain sometime during the evening. Then tomorrow night it's supposed to switch over to snow. If you find that. They're saying an inch, maybe. Some people are saying 2 inches. I'm thinking if we get an inch, but we will definitely get a coating. It's supposed to get cold as crap. It's raining now, it says, but I don't hear any rain. Oh, I guess it is probably lightly raining out there right now. But yeah, it's all supposed to switch over to snow tomorrow night. Yeehaw, fun. I'm ready for the snow, though. But I have a funny feeling this is going to be an interesting winter, to be quite honest. Hope everybody's ready for it. So I can tell you right now with the way things are and the way things are going. If you can afford it, start stocking up now. Do it slow and steady, but I'm telling you, be ready. Be prepared. It's going to be a crazy one. Load up on the canned goods. Got a freezer. You better fill it. Find a way to do it. I know we're all living check to check. But everybody going, I hope. Yeah, I really bummed out. I really wanted to do Wednesday night. Even though the Wednesday I had it on here and took it off because it was just me and Latro, for maybe half hour, 20 minutes, half hour. And he left and nobody showed up, so I went about my merry way, which is fine. That's okay. It happens, and it's all good. So tonight I got a good one. We're going to do one about cursed items. Wait 1 second here. Let me make sure. Strange and well, things that are cursed objects and like the DUBBY box and stuff like that. And it's going to be about 45 minutes. And then we'll go from there. See how we're all feeling and hanging. Other than that, that's the game plan. I'll start it here in a minute. I'd like to see it go up a little bit before I start, but I've been trying to start them by about 12:15, just give people time to wander in. What's it like down there? You guys, Latro down in Texas, supposed to feel this cold snap coming up too, so be ready next week because you may be feeling it. It's supposed to get cold down there too, all the way down almost into mid-Florida. The cold snap after this one. So it's going to be an interesting ride. But yeah, let's get on. I think I'm pretty much ready for it. Let me set it up while everybody's just kind of chilling. Just a couple of us anyways. And I'll go ahead and set this up. Well, let me think I'm going to do the other one. Right, let's do the other one. Oh, man, don't do that to me. So I know exactly where I'm going. Come on, come on. My scroller's not scrolling. There we go. Okay, here we go. But I'm glad you guys had a beautiful day. I mean, here today, a little gloomy, but it was chilly, but not bad at all. But see, it doesn't bother me. But the old man, he feels it in his bones. I do too. But no, I'm not letting it get to me this year. So, but yeah, I got a 2, so I'll go ahead and get this rocking. I might as well. Why not, right? Let's start this baby up. I changed it to the other one, which is 2 years old. Double feature, thrift and secondhand items and attachments, plus cursed video games. So this should be a good one. It's been a while. Let me load it up on the thing here. That looks good. Get it flipped over. Okay, let me go full screen for her. There we go. And then move me out of the way there. 1 sec. Here. Go. You're back? Yeah, I figured you're cooking. I know you're cooking. It's just me and you talking anyways. I'm going to get ready to go ahead and start this. I didn't know if you heard anything I said. Yeah, we're supposed to get snow, so, and then you guys are supposed to get some pretty chilly air all the way down there where you're at. So this week, you guys might get kind of some goosebumps going. Well, they're saying we may get about 1 inch, 2 inches Monday. They're saying it'll start snowing late tomorrow night and possibly stop Tuesday morning. We'll see. It'll probably be a wet, slushy snow because there was supposed to be rain before it. So we'll see. But I'm going to go ahead and kick this going. Sit back, relax as you come in and out. Please thumbs up. Give it a like. Subscribe. We will be back Friday. So 7:15. And come and join us. We'll have fun. And we got some topics we're going to talk about. So let's hope to see you there. I'm not sure about Wednesdays right now. We'll see about Wednesday. Like I told you guys before, I'm just playing Wednesdays by the ears because he's getting to the point where, we're on the go quite a bit. So bear with me on the Wednesdays, but I will be here for sure on Saturday nights. We'll just make Wednesday special treat. If I have time, I'll be here. Brought back from storage, fleece lined. Yeah, it's going to get chilly there. You better be ready because it's supposed to drop sometime next week for you guys. We get a cold snap. Then the second one that comes in, it's supposed to come in like midweek to next weekend. You might be feeling a lot of that, even where you're at. Let me get this baby going.
Beautiful gemstones, welcome back to my channel, and if you're new here, just welcome.
You might have to adjust.
My name is GemmaJade, but today we have a double feature. So at first we're going to be talking about thrift store purchases, secondhand items, and attachments they could bring to you, and I'm going to discuss with you some specific cases, and then towards the end I thought we'd have a little fun and talk about allegedly haunted and or cursed video games, because I know a lot of my subscribers, especially in Ghostdragonzw streams, talk a lot about video games, and we're coming into a really serious time on the channel, which is Halloween, where I'm going to do either 10 or 13 days of Halloween, and we're going to be talking a lot about demons, demonology, demonic activity, and things like that. So I figured in the next 2 weeks or so leading up to that, we could have a little bit of fun, and I hope you guys don't mind. I decided to finally cover this topic, the thrift store, secondhand item, and ghosts topic, because it's come up so many times in the 3 years or so that I've been reading Oracle professionally and that I've been on this channel. I get so many people asking me so many questions about the ins and outs of how attachments work and what residual energy is. So I felt like it was finally the right time to cover it all in a video, or maybe in a few videos, more than likely in a few videos. If you're someone like me, then it's easy for you in the sense that you can immediately either see or sense an attachment to an object. And sometimes I can even see further back and come to understand even more details than the initial bad attachment or whatever it is. But if you're just a regular person going about your daily life who, for whatever reason, ends up with an object that's come to you secondhand that also has some sort of negative or lower vibrational attachment, you would have no way of knowing that, and it could end very badly for you, or at least be very bad for you for quite a while. I know I'm someone who loves a good deal, and I also really love thrifting. But if you know me fairly well, you would know I don't normally talk about thrifting publicly, and that's for good reason. I simply don't do it, despite how much I really, really enjoy it. So the idea to cover this topic has always been somewhere in the back of my mind. But recently, I saw an article from a few years ago where a thrift store in North Carolina sold a bedroom set for $1,000 after advertising it as haunted. And that's what made me kind of spring into action and be like, okay, now is the time for us to talk about something like this. So labeling something as haunted, as most of us know, will definitely make the price go up rather than down in this day and age. But as most of us also know, that wasn't always the case. Believe it or not, and I didn't know it either, when I dug deeper into the research, because I have been in many thrift stores throughout my life and I've never seen anything advertised as haunted, but it is actually really common. I find it a little frustrating because it's like people who don't know what they're dealing with or the real dangers of what haunted objects could do to someone or how it could negatively impact their lives are going out into the world and claiming that items they're selling are haunted, even when they're not. Most of the time, people label things in that way just to be able to justify jacking the price up. But sometimes there's more truth to it than most people are willing to admit. That is to the item being haunted. Let's face it, too. When you go into a thrift or secondhand store, or even when someone gives you something, or when you find something that looks awesome on the side of the road and it's just lying there for anyone who comes along to take it for free, you bring these things into your home but have no idea who owned them before you, why they got rid of them, or what and or who might be attached to them in the first place.
Negative energy.
And I think a lot of people aren't even cognizant that that should be something to consider when pulling something off the side of the road or purchasing something at a yard sale. But people just don't think about it. I've seen it happen, albeit not very often, where a single object has numerous negative, demonic, or lower vibrational attachments because it's had a lifetime of picking those things up from its owners. Now, whether the object itself is at fault in that it was so toxic that it caused the people who owned it to start having their own evil experiences and things, or if it's just that some people who have owned it mostly have had their own issues with attachments in their lives, it really doesn't make a difference in the grand scheme of things, because one way or another, and regardless, that object, whatever it may be, is going to bring someone terrible luck. And it could bring not only terrible luck, but evil energy, evil entities into your life, as long as you own or have possession of it. The longer you have the item, the more likely it is that you'll be affected by it. I could talk generally about this subject for a series of videos without ever once giving a specific example, because it's just that broad a topic of conversation. However, I did bring some examples with me here today. So with all of that being said, let's jump right in. So, as I've already mentioned, it's not uncommon for people to claim that items they brought into their home that they got from yard sales, thrift stores, or that they otherwise came to possess secondhand have been haunted. I've seen cases that ranged all over and all throughout the paranormal spectrum. From flags people have insisted brought them bad luck to simply feeling bad vibes from an old book or something like that. And I've even seen someone claim that a secondhand wall organizer caused scratches on their arms. But here's the thing of it. The item itself isn't the issue. This is just a pen, right? But if it's a haunted pen, it's not actually the pen. It's not in the ink. It's what's attached to this pen that you all can't see.
I just never did.
That most people can't see. There's nothing attached to this pen except my energy, because this is my favorite writing pen. But y'all know what I mean. So whether it's an energetic issue or something much more sinister, like an actual entity attachment, or the very worst, a demonic attachment, it would help to be more aware of the energy of an object and how you feel around it before allowing it to take up space in your home. It's the same thing like we talk about at length here on this channel about how we should always be aware of the energy of a person before allowing them to enter into our homes or personal spaces. So I can't help but think of the story I heard about a woman who bought Christmas tree ornaments from a thrift store, and she swore up and down that they caused her bed to shake and lift off the ground at night, and that they opened up all her cabinets simultaneously over and over again. Now, obviously, the ornaments weren't jumping off the trees and growing legs and walking, so that's what I mean about it being what's attached to the item. A couple from Stockton, California brought a bag full of those medals that have the saints on them, and they said that immediately they started smelling a strange perfume everywhere in their home, even though they didn't wear any perfume at all, let alone that particular scent. So after a few days of the perfume scent in their home and just an overall strange feeling that they immediately put together started as soon as they brought the medals into their home, the husband threw the whole bag of them into the dumpster outside of their house. He said everything went back to normal again immediately following him having done that, and explained, quote, "It was like a weight was lifted. The place seemed lighter. There was no denying something was different," end quote. Another woman said she brought a Navy sailor's hat from World War II, and she was really excited about the purchase. However, she wasn't prepared to feel so strange and so freaked out every time she wore the hat. She said, quote, "It felt sort of like I was a stranger in my own mind and that someone else was in my body. I had to sit down. It was that heavy and overwhelming," end quote. Something that has to do with a war is never a good idea to bring into your home or personal space secondhand without at the very least cleansing it first. It could be that the person who originally owned the hat died in battle, or maybe otherwise died while wearing the hat. And sometimes when people die suddenly, especially when it's also that they died tragically and bloody, they became attached to the things that they were wearing at the time of those untimely deaths. There's millions of reasons why something like that happens, and I would just caution you guys once again, and at the risk of sounding annoyingly repetitive,
they are
at the very least, just cleanse the items first.
Yeah, I loaded up. I did some
just
good.
Cleanse anything being brought in secondhand.
Shopping
That's
today.
what I do, and I don't really have attachment to object issues.
Plus, I also could.
So I want to talk to you guys now about this place called the Consignment Furniture Showroom in Waco, Texas. They have an allegedly haunted couch that they acquired in August of 2007. There have been hundreds of people who go there just to look at this couch. That's another way to gain an unwanted and possibly very evil attachment, just by going out of your way to visit and look upon haunted items, allegedly haunted items. It's said that many people who own the couch before it ended up in the shop have had some serious bad luck and misfortune in their lives. So I keep doing this because there's no such thing as bad or good luck. There's no such thing as luck in general, and it's just for lack of better words or terms.
Do that too.
A man named Dean McNeil is the co-owner of the showroom, and he claims that ever since bringing the couch there, the data on their computers has been inexplicably erased more than once. Clocks stopped working on their own, and video footage that news reporters and others who had come to do a piece on the couch have all been erased without any reasonable or rational explanation. It's said that bad things have happened to not only those who have sat on the couch, but also to people who have moved it or who just stood too close to it for too long a period of time. Remember, guys, it all depends on your energy as well. And if you're a light worker, an empath, or sensitive in any way, shape, or form, and whether or not you're aware of it at all, you're at a significantly higher risk for having something bad happen to you or for gaining a negative attachment and walking away with it from something secondhand, or even with a situation like the couch. That means the entities or entity attached to the couch don't even need it anymore as a means to hurt you, and they can simply and easily attach themselves to you if you aren't careful, mindful, and alert. People say they've been in bad car accidents on their way home from being near or sitting on the couch, have gotten broken bones, have fallen through roofs, and even some who said they were almost immediately diagnosed with a strange and aggressive cancer afterwards. Could some of that be just coincidence? I mean, sure, but in every single sense and every single time, it's not even reasonable to think something like that, in my opinion. And I see it like the people who are saying people are nuts for blaming a haunted couch for their misfortune are, you know, just as out of their minds if they can think that 100% of the people claiming that the haunted object or item in question is to blame are wrong 100% of the time. So I think it's just as ridiculous to say that every single person who claims the couch or whatever was attached to it was responsible for
the chair,
their
what, in Ireland or
whatever
Scotland,
the case may be.
that they have to hang
it's
up.
Just as unreasonable to think
Maybe it's
that,
here, but
you know,
there's a chair that they have to really hang up on the wall because the guy that originally sat in
if that makes sense.
pretty much is his own
Plus,
chair.
you all know how I feel about
anybody else
coincidences, right?
in.
Whether or not
So
all of the
passed,
misfortune
and every
was
time
due to
somebody
the couch
sat
or
in
not
it,
is debatable, but
either
this
died or
couch
had horrible
specifically
things happen to it,
is
so
one
they
of
hung
those
it up on the
items
wall.
that looks evil, that looks haunted, and looks like there's something very wrong with it. But honestly, I prefer items like that. I would rather people decide not to purchase something based on how the way it looks makes them feel, because so many haunted items with severe and horrible attachments are beautiful, which makes them even more inviting and alluring to the unwitting people turned victims who purchase and are drawn to them. So I'd rather someone be like, oh no, that thing is ugly, rather than be like, oh my gosh, that's so gorgeous. And meanwhile, the ugly thing and the gorgeous thing have the same type of lower vibrational, possibly demonic attachment. And simply by looking at it, you're choosing not to bring it into your home. I wish that, you know, just like I wish all terrible people, you know, had something about their, you know, scar on their face or something to make them more noticeable, to make them stand out more so that people know who they are, what they are. I wish that all haunted objects were not nice to look at, where you wouldn't want it in your personal space. But unfortunately, most of the time and more often than not, that's not the case. But with this couch, that is definitely the case. The couch has two distinct things about it that cause people to speculate about where it came from and what could possibly be lingering around it. The first thing is a hole in the back of it that more than likely was caused by a bullet, and there appears to be bloodstains all over it in many different areas. Despite hundreds of people offering huge sums of money to the owners in order to try and purchase the couch, the store has refused every single one of them. They said, quote, "We like it because people come in from all over the United States to see it. So for now, we're holding on to it," end quote. In my opinion, that's a very good idea, but I would go a step further and tell them to put it in storage or, I don't know, burn it or something. Honestly, items like this could be benign and creepy, causing minimal disturbances, but haunted objects and items, no matter what they are or how big or small they may be, can have devastating and even sometimes deadly effects on people. And the thing is, no one would ever be able to prove beyond a shadow of a doubt, or depending who you're speaking to, even with any sort of reasonable doubt, that it was the item that caused the devastation or death, etc. And so these items normally survive a very long time, and the entities attached to them keep on feeding and feeding and feeding. I don't actually suggest everyone go out and burn their haunted items, because sometimes that is not the proper way to do things or to get rid of these attachments and these entities. In fact, off the top of my head, I could think of at least 5 other ways to go about handling the situation of a haunted object, but unless you're an expert in the field, or if you contact someone who knows what they're doing, simply taking matters into your own hands could prove even worse than whatever you were initially dealing with in the first place. So don't just try to get rid of this stuff on your own, except to cleanse and clear with sage and or palo, incense, and perfumes, things like that, holy water. Now, with all that being said, let's get into the double feature part and look at some other allegedly haunted objects. And one of the strangest things that I've come across by far that people claim to consistently end up being haunted or cursed or something like that are video games, because nailing it down to items specifically purchased at thrift stores would keep me here all day. Now, if you have your own encounters with the paranormal concerning thrift store attachments or secondhand items in their attachments, please send them into my email along with any other encounter stories you may have. But I would literally be able to cover it for the next year every week, doing several videos a week, if I talked about every single instance of someone gaining something somehow secondhand, and then also gaining some sort of lower vibrational, negative, or demonic attachment. That's not to say that everything you buy from yard sales and garage sales, thrift stores, or secondhand shops is haunted, but there are more than if you were purchasing something brand new, because people carry and transfer energy. We are made of energy, and we transmute it into different types depending understanding what we're feeling, experiencing, going through, and a myriad of other different factors every single day. The last thing that comes to my mind when I think about haunted objects or items is video games, and that's why I chose to tack it on the end here. The tales I found, though, range from what is more than likely just urban legends gone wild or viral to some really mysterious and interesting video games that, in my opinion, could very well be haunted in and of themselves. It's always up for you guys to decide what you believe at the end of the day, and I hope, if nothing else, you will find this video entertaining, even if the entertainment you get from it is nothing more than mere amusement. To each his own, I'll say, and leave it at that. I wonder what it must be like to be able to choose not to believe. What a luxury that must be. So there's a really well-known video game that's said to be haunted and that has had these types of rumors and all sorts of speculation and the like attached to it for a very long time now, and that's the infamous game called Polybius. And I think it's more that it's cursed. In 1981 and well into the mid to late 90s, video arcades were quite popular, with them fading into almost obscurity as each of those decades wore on and the world of entertainment got closer to the millennium. So, according to my analytics and the demographic that most watches my show, most of you all know what a video game arcade is. Remember the cabinet games and having all your pockets filled with quarters as you raced around looking for a game someone else wasn't already attached to, or impatiently waiting in line for other kids to be done playing the game you had your eye on, or that you've been thinking about all day. It was really exciting and you were probably thinking about that same game the night before as well, and your only opportunity to play it was by waiting in line for these other dang kids who never wanted to stop playing once they finally got their turn. It was madness, right? I love them. I always loved the arcade scene. Going to the arcade was a big deal for me when I was little, and I lived in a city where there were quite a few of them. I haven't actually been to an arcade since my oldest son, who will be 24 at the end of this month, was barely able to walk.
Just went to one. It
was like overnight they just faded into obscurity, and now that same son has more than likely never been to one like since then either. Guys, just so you know, Chuck E. Cheese and Dave & Buster's, like, yeah, that doesn't count. That's not what we're talking about here. Okay, so back to Polybius. Back in 1981, arcades were at the height of their popularity, and at a handful of them in Portland, Oregon, there was a specific game there that suddenly appeared with a very strange name. It was called Polybius. The game was released by a German company called Sinneslotchen. That's my best shot, my best take on that. And it had a bunch of different puzzles, shooting games, and different types of mazes. The cabinet for the game, unlike most of the others at the time, was kind of bland and somewhat unassuming, which said nothing about the game itself. The cabinet was all black, and the logo was very simple as well, especially compared to the brightly colored, neon, and flashing games and cabinets that no doubt surrounded this game. For whatever reason, the game, despite its simplistic design, proved extremely popular with kids, and it was being reported even back then that wherever this particular game was, so whether it be in one of the aforementioned arcades or just one of 2 or 3 in a local pizza joint or bowling alley, there were kids constantly lined up to play. It never stood alone or unplayed as long as the places that held it were open. Also, when this game was around, nobody else seemed to want to play the game surrounding it. So if it's like, I've seen this in like a pizza joint. So say there were 3 games on the wall, nobody else would play anything other than Polybius. So 15 kids all waiting in line for Polybius, not even playing the other 2 games that were available to them while they waited. Which, I mean, you know, that is kind of weird. What made the game interesting, though, or at least what makes it interesting to us here in this video, has nothing to do with the design or the puzzles and mazes, but the fact that it had the ability to induce all sorts of physical and mental disturbances in the kids that were playing it. Children throughout the Portland area who had played this particular game were experiencing headaches, dizziness, blackouts, hallucinations, paranoia, nightmares, nausea, ideas of taking their own lives and self-harm, and the game was said to even be putting the kids into fits of epileptic type seizures. More than a handful of kids, and perhaps more than what could be attributed to mere coincidence, were in fact taking their own lives immediately after playing the game. Even more bizarre were some reports that men in dark clothing, and described similarly to how we would describe the men in black in our day and age, would go every single night to wherever the games were, not to collect the coins from that day's usage, but seemingly to download some sort of data for it that obviously no one knew to what end they were doing this.
Yeah,
now, I would like to point
out
here that the Men in Black completely fictitious movie hadn't even come out yet in 1981 and was a long way off. So the descriptions of being spot on for those men and that particular type of phenomenon did strike me as interesting from the moment I read it. Also, I've looked through some of the reports of these men, and it was full-blown adults who had no interest in and had never played the video games or that specific video game, but who were connected to the establishment where the game stood in one way or another were reporting this. So like the owner of, the aforementioned pizza place, right? The hypothetical pizza place. The owners of or janitors of the arcades, people who were around late at night, usually around closing time, were the ones reporting this, not really the kids themselves. I think there were some reports of kids having seen it too. Around a month after the extremely popular and somewhat controversial game appeared in arcades and the like, it disappeared overnight and with no explanation. One day, the cabinets holding Polybius were there, and the next they weren't, and no one ever talked about why the game had been removed. Now, most people will say it was because of the strange and somewhat dangerous effects it was having on kids, and others who chose to play it, but from what I could tell, it wasn't until after the game had disappeared into obscurity that most of these reports even came to light. Aside from some random photos of the game in the background of random people's photos from that time that the game and the company who released it disappeared completely, there's really no record of it having actually existed. Because of all the strangeness connected to the game and it's basically disappearing into thin air along with an entire company, the game was launched into the status of legendary and quickly became an urban legend, not just in Portland, Oregon, but all over the United States and then the world. It was even included on an episode of The Simpsons. So, you made it big. I always thought that I would want to be famous enough so that they would make Simpsons of me. So, that if you were made into a Simpson or appear in a Simpsons episode, you've made it to legend status. The whole ordeal, the whole legend has been picked apart and debated for years and is still being debated to this day with tons of strange and sinister theories as to what could have been going on coming to light. The theory I've seen most is that the game was some sort of government experiment used to collect data on the psychological effects of certain visual inputs, with the game having been designed to create particular and specific strobing effects in order to induce a strong response in the players. A theory I saw that's a little different, but along those same lines, is one that says it wasn't for psychological effects, but mind control. I don't really see how that plays in, because it's not like these kids were going home and, committing crimes or stealing from their parents, or it's not like while they were in the store. Like, how would they have collected data on that unless, maybe it was the Men in Black and they were following these kids around? We don't know what these kids who didn't self-harm right after playing the game went on to do with their lives. So I guess we can't really say that. Of course, the skeptics will point out how new video games were back then. And if you think about it, I don't think Nintendo, the original, had even been released yet in 81. I could be wrong on that. It may have just been released in 81. But give me a break, guys. I don't really play video games. So they're saying that people were just seeing the effects and very real dangers of them. Nowadays, if you think about it, there are warnings on some games, mainly those with strobing effects and also with the Oculus, that it could cause seizures in people prone or susceptible to them. This is one where I will at least entertain the skeptics' ideas, but the fact that so many respectable adults were coming forward back then while it was all happening and talking about how Men in Black suits were downloading something out of the games makes me think it's something more. Cursed or haunted? No. But some sort of government experiment? Absolutely. Let me know what you all think in the comments below, please. As always, just remember to respect yourselves and one another and the channel.
I know she goes back.
One last thing I would like to point out about this particular game is that a lot of people say the game never existed and is some sort of made-up urban legend, sort of like an old-school creepypasta. But I would say it might be more of a Mandela effect, because there are real photos of the game, as I stated earlier, but in the background of people's personal photos from arcades back then. Like, you took a picture of your sister Susie as she played Pac-Man, and Polybius just happened to be right next to it. These photos do exist, and they have been uploaded to the internet for everyone to see. And I don't think a lot of them were doctored. Could some of them have been? Yeah, but no, I can't say. I remember this game ever being in arcades because, one, I live in New Jersey, not Oregon, and two, I wasn't born until 2 years after this all allegedly happened. Think about it too, though. Why would it only be released for a month to such a small demographic
after it,
in
the
Oregon?
System after
With how
it
quickly it became popular, you would think
Genesis.
we would be playing the same game, only better on our PS5s or Xboxes or whatever the kids are playing today, right? I mean, think about it. Super Mario. There are so many games from the 80s that were widely popular that are now available for these other systems. Grand Theft Auto, I think, came out in the early 90s. It was that bird's eye view, and the guys were like smaller than my pinky nail. Like, it was crazy. And that's where we get the GTA of today from Rockstar Games. So you would think that with all the money this company supposedly made too from kids only focusing so much on this game and playing it over and over again, obsessively almost, that they would have wanted to keep this game around.
Mm-hmm.
It's weird, guys. It is weird. Like I said, cursed or haunted, I don't think
so.
But
there's still rumors that they say it still pops
Another
up.
Game that's said to have caused mysterious effects on the minds of those who played it is the Japanese version of the Nintendo Game Boy game Pokemon Red and Green. The game was introduced in 1996 to huge acclaim and a ton of fanfare, and it was hugely popular and without any strange effects on anyone. Except that is in Japan, which was the original release location. Very soon after the game was released in Japan, there was a very quick succession of kids aged 7 through 12 who played the game, taking their own lives. About 200 in total were counted in the first couple of months alone, but again, only in Japan. Out of the kids who played the game and survived, many of them reported the same dizzying and nausea-inducing effects as Polybius almost a decade and a half earlier in Portland. The migraine headache, strange hallucinations, nightmares, and many other bizarre and serious side effects while playing the game were reported there as well. This led to the idea that the game was cursed. Could it be, though, that the systems in Japan on which kids played games were much more advanced even at that time? I don't know, like I said, too much about video games, but I saw some skeptics saying that was the case. But even for someone who doesn't know that much about it, I think all systems were basically created equal back then, right?
Pretty much.
However, if I am wrong about that, please let me know in the comments, because I really would like to know. There's a specific point in the game, a place called Lavender Town, that was said to be where all of the side effects started taking effect. Everything in Lavender Town was overlaid with a weird-looking purplish haze, which, if I do say so myself, made it look seriously creepy. I went back and looked. So in the background, the soundtrack had completely changed from the normal music in the Pokemon games at the time, the almost dizzying and upbeat music, to a hauntingly creepy one as well. However, if you're remembering this game and thinking that the music didn't change at all, it was always that dizzying, upbeat music, then you would be right, but only kind of sort of. It's said that if you were between the ages of 7 and 12 at the time when you played the game, only then would you hear the frequency, as it was one only children that age could hear. Now, we talk on this channel all the time about different energetic frequencies, so why not sound as well? Humans can't hear dog whistles. Humans can't hear spirits speaking except through what? EVPs. Most of us, anyway. Nintendo obviously denied all of the accusations about hidden frequencies and that there was anything wrong with the game, purposely anyways, including once you got to Lavender Town. But there were enough complaints that they changed the soundtrack before they released the game overseas, like here in the United States, which is another reason I guess you wouldn't have heard the strange frequency even if you were born between the right ages, unless you were between 7 and 12 and in Japan in 1996 playing this game. Though it's completely unknown what was up with the game and why, like whether it was done on purpose or not, it's factual information as far as what was happening to kids in that age range in Japan upon the initial release of that game. Some people think it's cursed and others believe there's some sort of strange code hidden in the game and the soundtrack, but now they figured out a way to implant thoughts of violence and who knows what else into kids' minds through the Pokemon Red and Green game. Did the powers that be get smarter and learn to hide their dastardly intentions better, or was it all just one big coincidence and that the initial release had some things wrong with it that they were luckily able to fix before releasing it to the masses all over the rest of the world? So, guys, there are sites where you can go and listen to the original soundtrack or the allegedly original soundtrack, the one from Japan before it got changed of Lavender Town, but I am not including any links or anything like that. If you do go look for the Cursed Lavender Town Frequency soundtrack, please do so at your own risk and understand that you've been warned.
It's
Also,
out there.
don't
You
do it
can't
while in the
find it.
presence of children,
Put
because
everywhere
whether you
links
think it's a
that were
paranormal thing or not,
actually
remember,
found.
evidence is
That's
out there that
millions
something
ago.
like 200 kids already took their own lives or self-harmed themselves, or at the very least attempted to do so, regardless of anything else that may be going on. Okay, so just be careful. We have to be responsible in our research, guys. So there's another lesser known game out there that's said to have the capacity to drive players insane, but it's really a mod. It's for the game The Elder Scrolls Morrowind. This particular game has always encouraged independent mods from everything from weapons to armor, from new characters to quests, and so much more. My son plays it. There's a specific mod that has gained itself quite the reputation, though, and that's a mod called JVK1166Z.ESP. It was originally thought to be a virus because it was destructive and initially caused the screen to freeze, and as soon as it was downloaded, any games you had saved, no matter how many of them were there, would be immediately deleted. Sounds like virus material to me. However, it was soon found out that it wasn't a virus at all, despite doing all of those things, but it did that because you would have had to have been playing the game over special software for playing older PC games on newer computers. But once you figured and found that out, actually playing it was an even more bizarre experience. I'll let MU explain it because I love them as source material and information for my videos. And also, as I've said multiple times already, I don't know much about video games and wouldn't really know what I was talking about. According to the site, quote, opening the mod immediately shows that all characters in the game have died and causes a player's health to rapidly deteriorate should they stay in any one place too long. Upon dying from this apparent glitch, a new non-player character would appear who looked to have limbs that were long and unsettling like those of some insect or spider, and which was called the Assassin. This character was said to scamper off and then proceed to haunt the player throughout the rest of the game, appearing and skittering about in the shadows and lurking around corners. Another strange detail about the mod was that at night, all of the characters who had supposedly died would come out at night and gaze at the sky, simply saying, "Watch the sky." End quote. The weirdness would only get worse when a new dungeon within the game was discovered, which proved to have its own strange tales linked to it. Within this dungeon, there was said to have been a hall of portraits, which was lined with pictures that were allegedly plucked straight from the player's own pictures folder on their computer. This was unsettling to say the least. I mean, mainly for me, because no access was granted to those photos. But just as odd was this hall of portraits purportedly ended at a door that seemed to be locked and that there seemed to be no way of getting through. And I don't think anyone has even figured that out up until now. I'm not sure, but from what I could find, it's like you just kind of get stuck there. So it said people have spent so much time trying to figure out how to get through that locked door that they have gone insane in the real world. They literally lost their minds. Also, about the real world in relation to the Hall of Portraits is that people have said that if you spend enough time on the door without losing your mind, I guess, then someone or something called the Assassin will appear in real life wherever you are playing. So I guess this assassin character haunted you in the shadows and like lurked around in the shadows and followed you around in the game. So maybe it's being said that that's what this thing would do in real life. I don't know. That does sound kind of creepy. So is this all just mass hallucination? Is it urban legend, or is it something else altogether? It could be any of those things or something completely different that could be really happening. That's not to suggest that for every single person who manages to keep their minds and wits about them while playing in the Hall of Portraits will get a real life visit from the character in the game called the Assassin. Well, actually, the non-character from the game. See, it just confuses me. It really does. But if we go back to what we already know about tulpas and thought forms, guys, maybe some people have brought the character into their real lives on accident. I know that a lot of you are probably watching this thinking that I have lost my dang mind covering something like this. But as I said earlier, I'm going to be doing at least 10, at most 13 nights of Halloween, where I'm going to be getting down and dirty into the realm and field of demonology and into demons. So I thought that something somewhat fun, albeit still a little bit sinister, was in order. So thank you for bearing with me, and I hope you're entertained one way or another. I want to discuss a couple instances of games that are said to be literal ghosts in the machine, or at least they're said to contain them. Let's talk about even one I know about and have played now called Minecraft. This particular game has continued to remain extremely popular despite it having a very simple concept in a completely open world design. In the game, for those of you who aren't aware and whom I've managed to hold on to who haven't clicked off the video yet, has players mining all different resources in order to build a veritable plethora of buildings and structures. You could basically build whatever you want with what you've mined in the game, and I'll admit it is pretty fun and a little bit addicting. The complete and total freedom to create, in my opinion, is special and kind of incredible in its simplicity. There have been more than a few players who have come forward and talked about some bizarre things they've come across and or found while playing, though, and that's what I want to talk with you all about here today. So, more than a few people have reported finding random objects that weren't known to have been coded into the game, such as inexplicable tunnels that are cut into rocks that lead nowhere, trees that seem to have had all their leaves removed, and seriously random structures like pyramids lying in seriously random places like the ocean. Those things can't be a part of the game, and there should have been no one who was able to get to those places to build those things. It would help if I knew more about the game, and for that I do apologize, but it sounds interesting anyway, and if you know more, please let me know in the comments below, as with everything else we've discussed here today. So, more than a few players have come forward and claimed to know who was responsible for the strange and bizarre anomalies. These people have claimed to have seen a white-eyed, spooky-looking version of the game's protagonist, whose name is Steve. Well, the white-eyed specter's name is unknown, but the game's main protagonist is named Steve, apparently. It definitely isn't Steve, though, as its white eyes, blank stare, and out-of-place placement give that away right from the moment the players lay eyes on it/him. So, the legend surrounding this ghost-like figure is a bit on the scary side. It's said that the creator of the game, whose name is Notch, once had a brother who played under the pseudonym of Herobrine before he tragically died somehow.
Oh, Johnny.
It's said that many people have seen the white-eyed character building in places where it should be impossible to do so, and that it's the brother's way of putting himself into the game or to stay connected to his brother through his work. I honestly don't know about any of that, though, and most skeptics say it's just merely a bug or a glitch in the game and there's nothing sinister about it. Could it be the deceased brother haunting the game, or could it be Notch's purposeful attempt at honoring his deceased brother, or is it nothing more than a mere glitch? Well, one of the publicly stated improvements made to the game by the developer Mojang was, quote, the removal of Herobrine, end quote. However, people still see him, and how did they remove a character that wasn't supposed to ever have even existed in the first place? People have posted countless photos and videos of coming across him in the game before and after he was supposedly removed, and while the developers and the creator of the game insisted he didn't exist in the first place. This one is kind of strange, guys, I'll give you that. Haunted or cursed, I don't know, but spooky and weird, yeah, definitely. So, how did the character name itself anyway? Like, a glitch named itself? A whole character was created out of nothing more than a glitch and then named itself?
AI?
I don't know. That just like wraps up too neatly for me. I need a little bit more mess in my information, if you know what I mean. I know that there are tons of other games we could talk about on here, but I'm going to cover one more and then see how you like this topic before we go any further in another video or something. So let's move on to the Legends of Zelda Majora's Mask, and it could be Majora's Mask, which is what I think I'm going to call it. The story has its own thread, or had one anyway, on 4chan. Someone posted saying that they had a copy of the game that was haunted. This person, who kept themselves anonymous, said that they came across a blank cartridge with the name of the game written across the front of it in black marker. Now, this is a game for Nintendo 64, for those of you who, like myself, didn't know that. The witness said they were curious, and so they put the game in the system just to see what would happen, and immediately noticed a saved game titled Ben that was already there. He ignored the saved game and started a new one, but noticed all of the characters in the new game were referring to him as Ben. He thought it was just a glitch, so to try and fix it, he deleted the Ben file and started again. When he did so, though, everything got even more real. The backgrounds in the game changed and were said to be even more surreal, with scenery that was severely distorted and music punctuated by random screams and screeches. Sometimes the music even played backwards, and a demonic and twisted-looking version of the game's avatar followed him around everywhere he went in the game, but remained in the shadows, whatever that means. So I guess this is like the Herobrine character, or maybe even the assassin in the other games. So he restarted the game only to find the mysterious Ben file there again after he had already deleted it, but also there was another new saved file simply titled Drowned. All attempts from that point on to start a new game were met with the same thing, the character almost immediately and inexplicably dying, and on the screen the question, quote, "You've met with a terrible fate, haven't you?" end quote, sprawled across it. So the game has never actually been recovered. Like, there's nothing really public about where that game ended up, if it ever really existed at all. But there are various screenshots online of the alleged game, but most people chalk this all up to an urban legend. I know these two topics don't seem to go together, but I didn't have enough to talk about attachments in the pre-recorded upload and thought this would be a fun break from the usual heavy topics of discussion I cover here on this channel. Sometimes, just to preserve my own mental health, I need to chillax with what I'm discussing with you all, and at the end of the day, I truly hope, at least with the second half of this, you all had as much fun as I did. That's all I have for you today, guys. Please give this video a big thumbs up if you enjoyed the content, if you enjoyed hanging out with me, if you enjoyed hanging out with one another, if you attended the premiere. Spread the love by sharing this video. I am so close to 3,000 subscribers, and I'm doing a big giveaway as soon as I get there, and I'm going to be announcing the winners on Halloween. So all you have to do is purchase a remote general intuitive oracle reading for the month of November. That's $20.
Be right with you. Back. Okay. Let me do something here real quick. Hope everybody's having a good evening. I'm not sure, since this was a kind of long one, I'll do another one. I'm just making sure if I do, I pick a good one, but I don't know if I will. Just play it by ear here. Where'd it go? I haven't picked out. Throw it back up just in case. I can't find it. Dun, dun, dun. Okay. Well, we'll just leave it right there for right now. But yeah, thanks, John. Johnny, if you're still here, thanks for stopping in. Appreciate it. Sometimes I show one, sometimes I show two. We're average about 3 people, so I probably won't push my luck tonight. And I'll probably end it at 1. A lot of people come in and watch it afterwards anyways. I hope. Just remember to hit that thumbs up. Yeah, Johnny, you used to be a regular, right? Yeah, you used to see you in here off and on, huh? If I remember right, Johnny Topside. I could be wrong, but I know I've seen the name in here before or somewhere. Yeah, we should be back. Me and her will be back Friday. This Friday at 7:15. She tries to be early. All depends on how he gets back in time to get little man. But and like I said, Wednesdays I'll play by ear. So I may or may not be here. Just watch. Yeah, I'll pop up on YouTube. I haven't pushed it a whole lot on Facebook, only because my streams, only because I don't get much of a response anyway. So, but I've had, fun doing this. So, and I'll keep doing it as long as somebody hangs out with me, even if it's only for an hour or so. I kind of enjoy it. It's kind of fun. Nice little break for me too. Gives me a chance to babble. I'm surprised my voice is holding up as well as it has been. It was a little rough earlier. So, yeah. But, yeah, we'll call it at 1. And for the folks to come in and watch it later, thank you. Thanks for the batter. No, thank you, Latro, for hanging out with me. I mean, that Wednesday night when it was just me and you, bud, I appreciated that. It meant a lot. Believe me. Yeah, I took that one down. It wasn't worth keeping up for a half hour. So I just told her to delete. I just deleted it. But, yeah, it was fun. I enjoyed it. Thank you so much, sir. And, Johnny, thanks for hanging. I appreciate it. And everybody have a good Sunday. And those who watch this replay, I know it's afterwards, and they probably won't last this long. Thank you. Make sure you thumbs up. What should I do here? I'll do the famous. They gave us a bunch of new stuff on here, and I've been playing with it. Where's that? We'll do this right here. Give us a thumbs up and follow and like if you're not subscribed, if you pop in and watch it later. Have a wonderful Sunday. Latro, you have a good Sunday. Johnny, you too, and anybody else that pops in and out, please have a good one. I hope to see you Wednesday. If I don't see you Wednesday, you'll definitely see us Friday. And I will be back on Saturday. and I'll keep coming back until nobody shows up. That's all right. That's what it's all fun. And have a good one. Much love to you all. And take care of each other. I'll see you on the flip.